We're joined today on the bridge by Nikki Lane and her friend Clyde, who you'll have to watch the video to figure out who Clyde actually is. But it's really great to get a chance to visit with you, Nikki. Fourth studio album, Denim and Diamonds, is out September 23rd on New West, and just cannot wait for this record. And also, the very next day, you are playing at the Lincoln Calling Festival in downtown Lincoln, Nebraska. It's as close as you're getting to us. It's worth the drive, but we are looking forward to seeing you in Kansas City as soon as we can.
I was just talking about it because you've got that River City Antiques downtown, and then Lawrence is just a bit away. You know that half of my travel is based on all that antiquing. So I'm ready to play in Kansas City and also stay in Kansas City for a day or two.
Yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit more about that side of you here in just a little bit. You know, I don't know you, I'm sure you remember the show, but the one time that we did get a chance to meet earlier was when the bridge helped connect you with Loretta Lynn for a special show at the Uptown Theater. And you were a rock star that night. You know, the way people swarmed you at the merch table that night, it was like you were the Beatles.
That was like one of the happiest nights of my life. There's a photo of me standing with Loretta Lynn where I look like Opie from like what was that, the Andy Griffith Show. I have like the biggest cheesy grin on my face. It's unbelievable. And you know, my mom had flown out for that event, you know, and she still does that a lot, but it was just a big moment for all of us. I grew up not really listening to that old of country music, but my family came from motocross. So we had been going up to her house for a long time, but I didn't know what kind of a Loretta Lynn fan I was going to be, and desired to have her whole life, including a property where a bunch of motorcycle guys come out on the weekends. But I think that was my first time playing there. Maybe, or like second, but it set such a high bar. Are you gonna give me that kind of show every time?
Yeah, I think the people here love you. So yeah, love to get you back.
Yeah, I think so.
So, you know, it's been a while. It's been 5 years since your last album, and you filled those 5 years well. You collaborated with Lana Del Rey, you collaborated with Spiritualized, but I also get the sense that those 5 years gave you room to deepen your songwriting.
100%. And I think the songwriting goes hand in hand with like the life experiences that you're having. And I said, when I hear people reading back, like that I took a break, I'm like, wait, I didn't take a day off, you know, but I just needed space from that one creative outlet, in the sense that I was doing the same thing every day. I couldn't write another Highway Queen. So by being able to like deepen life experiences, all of a sudden I had this opportunity to write from a different perspective. I think this is a reflective record rather than how I normally talk about the immediate events that are surrounding me. And so in that way, it's my favorite record. I feel like because every time I'm in the studio, I get a bigger vocabulary and more confident talking with the guys and verbalizing the changes I want to make, that now I have what I kind of think is like my perfect record. So it feels really good.
Yeah. You know, we love our artists that sort of color outside the lines, and you're one of those. It seems like you have a duality for every occasion. You know, you're into fashion, you're into music, you're into country, you're into rock. And so when I saw the title, Denim and Diamonds, I really thought, well, there's another duality. But, you know, actually, you know, it's really as much about taking control of your life and perseverance as much as anything.
I think so. And the pandemic taught that to everyone, right? Who was well versed at rolling with the punches and who wasn't. Some of the early days that I came out to the Midwest, I was writing alongside to house shows out towards your way with Bobby Bear Jr. And he would drag me along and really break me in as far as tour etiquette and driving and taking care of each other. And on a trip, he just said to me that his dad had told him, I've had a lot of band members now, and sometimes I think it's too many, but it's just the right amount because it's a crew, you know, so they've weeded themselves out, or I've gotten tired of it or whatever, you know. But what his dad said kind of showed me what is the truth for me, and shows in songs like Born Tough, which his dad said, tour is a long race, son. Like, get rid of anyone who's tired of jumping hurdles, because they're going to keep coming, you know? So you really only want to do it for as long as you want to do it. And I think I had to follow my own advice when I thought I was like breaking from wanting to record. I just was like, I'll do it when I want to do it. Literally, not to be defiant to you, but to be true to my own self, or else you're going to get a machine, and you don't really want me as a machine, you know?
Our guest today on the bridge, Nikki Lane, fourth studio album, Denim and Diamonds, out September 23rd. You know, you invoked that song Born Tough, and that song has your parents woven into the lyrics. And I wondered what it was like for you growing up with them. I know that it had to be musical house in a certain way because you were singing back then, at least in church.
Mm-hmm. And they were very like musically inspired. My dad, my dad was arrested here in Nashville, Tennessee, trying to sell a song to Lori Morgan on her front porch drunk. And he told the, this is true. I have a picture to go along with this. He told the police that he had drank cold medicine on Antabuse, which is a medicine. And I just listen. So he thought he was going to be a country singer, and he was so dramatic, AKA traumatic, that there was tons of inspiration to write about in those early days. Plus my mother, who then became a single mother, you know, on the other side of town, just was trying to get us, hi, Minnie, out of another guest here, my imaginary friends on the radio. But she was listening to Motown forever. We would go down to the beach and two-step or swing, which is really the shag down there at the beach, but on the boardwalk, and we'd run around in my dad's T-top convertible 280Z and listen to cassette tapes. And then my grandfather was into mountain music and traditional gospel and quartets and things of that nature. So I was always surrounded by music. In my young days of being a music fan, I relied on like MTV and Spin and things like that to tell me which way to go. I was talking today about Polestar, digging for live shows and using the venue as a way to figure out about more of that genre at the time, because that venue I didn't know, but was going to be prone to booking the same kind of music, you know, and just kind of climb my way through a musical like landscape, but without thinking of myself as any kind of player in that scenario until bang, at 25, I made a record.
Our guest today on the bridge is Nikki Lane, and again, Denim and Diamonds, out September 23rd. You know, I'm just amazed by your story, because as much as you seem to have music around the house, you were a reluctant performer. You dreaded the concept of soloing in the church choir. You failed 10th grade chorus. When you did start performing, you would break out in a rash, and yet here we are 4 albums in, with just one great album after another. You want to talk about perseverance, I guess, right?
Yeah. And I think something like Try a Little Harder, a song on this record, which I called the cornerstone of the album because it was the first that I had completed. It just, life is a series of events, you know what I mean? And you have to just keep going, you know, if it's going good. And I think that I just thought of myself as someone who had to move. I wanted to move away from my hometown. I needed to do that in a self-sufficient manner. So I never thought about a creative career, but I was clearly creative. It was leaking out in all these other outlets. And when I started daydreaming about how I still talk about building brands and making items and stuff, I was like, well, it'd be easier if I was famous. And I was still skirting around. But what I now know about this record is like I was skirting around having to be vulnerable, you know, which is what being a songwriter is. The only reason I took a break, even though, again, I don't remember the pause, but even though I hit that burnout spot for myself, I think it was just because I couldn't pretend not to be vulnerable anymore. You know what I mean? And so it was great for this album because it allowed me to go, okay, you guys, I am the toughest person in the room, but also like I cry in the tub, like, you know, just like anybody else who does too much.
You know, we both have alluded to it, but you also have had this one foot in the fashion world as well. And you originally went out to LA as a fashion designer. You end up in New York. That's where you picked up music. Then you spent your rent money deciding to chase music in Nashville and eventually made that transition. But you have opened up a a shop over in East Nashville called High Class Hillbilly. And there's a website that goes along with that, highclasshillbilly.com, where, you sell like clothes and jewelry and things like that. In fact, that's how you met Dan Auerbach, was selling him a jacket.
That's true. It's opened a lot of doorways. Like, I obviously love playing at the Stagecoach Music Festival, a California country music festival that has a big pop country presence, but then a left of center whole side of the complex, which I now have a big imprint on by being close with the booker, but by being close with her because we were both female entrepreneurs, and I'm just now opening a lobby in a cool hotel downtown that's country themed. So that, for me, again, when I was hesitant to be so devoted to music because of the vulnerability of the outside world dictating my success and you guys knowing all my secrets, because that's how I emote them, I have full confidence in this other side. Like I always say, if you didn't like my record, that might hurt my feelings, but if you don't like my t-shirt, you're wrong, because that shit's perfect. Like,
Well, I've always been amazed at your ability to balance it all. And, I was going through the website, highclasshillbilly.com, and it's like, there's also like, it's not just clothes, it's jewelry as well. But I do think that maybe my favorite piece of jewelry that's associated with you are the handcuffs that are hanging from the rear view mirror in your video for Black Widow. Was that your touch?
That was my touch. When we started, we were busy when we were planning it. So Austin was going, what about a sand timer and an hourglass? I was like, oh, and then he found a diamond shape. So then you start to think about the other, there's no set director when there's no money, and we're still as liberal as we are with what we've got, we still have limitations. So I'm sitting there on eBay late night, ordering like those very provocative high-heeled boots. Like, just my internet order that night looked really wild, but the handcuffs, and they had to be black. So I was like looking at old dead stock ones from the 70s, and then really Amazon beat all the eBay deal. You got to get the backup. But it's funny, like when you see the finished product, all those little touches of trying to break the mirror, like the shape of a spider web or whatever, like they really translate well. Someone in a new project asked me, like, if it's not going to make you more money, why bother? And I just started laughing. It was like, that's why I handle this part of the business. Like, because it's really just about how good it is, and then I got to figure out how to make money. So that's why I do 5 jobs.
Well, and there's also that thing where people don't always sort of get how, just because you don't see an immediate return on investment doesn't mean that it isn't cumulative over time and the quality does win out.
100. And I just, like, when I look at some of my friends that are way more successful than me, some of the difficulties they have to deal with because of that popularity, that's why they hang out with me, is to hide from that. So I'm like professionally trying to hide from it now. Like, I want to be successful, but I want to be pure, and that's polarizing. So I'll just stay pure and polarizing, you know what I mean? And I say, I'm outlaw, she's in law, like just stay over here so that I can keep doing whatever I want.
Our guest today on The Bridge is Nikki Lane, the 4th studio album, Denim and Diamonds, out September 23rd on New West. And, I do want to talk about the new record because you've always had, it's so funny. You've spoken to this. Your voice works so well with country music, but you've always loved rock. It's kind of where you came from in a lot of ways. So we shouldn't be surprised that Josh Homme has produced this record.
No. I mean, you should be surprised just because I would have never thought to ask him. A previous manager queued up the meeting, and just because of all this, like, reluctant, the fear of vulnerability, I was like, do you think he'll do it? And so, and to be fair, I don't think he could have done much more that year. It was such a busy year, even though it was a pandemic year, 2020, that our households got crazier and busier, dealing with not being able to go. So I was lucky to even kind of get his bandwidth to make that album. And it became, I think, a really sweet spot for all of us involved, because it was a time where nobody could do anything. You were kind of afraid to, like even if you weren't afraid anymore, And so I said, once we tested into like a bubble, all of a sudden we had this kind of like childlike creative space for the first time, in that way of like first high. You can't go into the studio again the first time, but you can when you're not supposed to for the first time, and so there was like a fun, like really intimate quality to it. Plus, these are all very different types of players, that, and a lot of them, the commonality was Josh, working with Queens, the people that got to play on the record. Plus then we had my pedal steel player. And I think that it just was I just think everybody felt like they got to put their thought in, and then somehow it still sounded like me. I was so stoked.
So were you able to actually go into the studio, or did you do a lot of this long distance?
I wouldn't have made it. I would have just gone 7 years without a record. This is the fun part. You know what I mean? That's not what I'm not like, man, I'm tired of the studio. Like, no, it was important that it be together. And so since that can't be a lot of days, it took a long time. We had to like take breaks in between, like things would flare up in LA or whatever. But it was, in a couple little bubbles of time over the year. And then took a long time to mix it, because then everything started to come back and you get busy in a different way. So we just kept chipping away at it while everybody else was putting those backlogged records out. And I was like, well, we've already gone 3 years. What if we go 4? And then I got a great new management team with some stellar ladies, guys and girls, but just like some people that all of a sudden, like the vision seemed ready. And I was like, well, we can go 5 years, so that we can get everything together. And like I said, I never really got a day off. So I was really happy with how it all pans out, even though I'd say it went differently than planned.
So did you record in Josh's Pink Duck studio?
Yes, we did. And it was really fun. That space is very large, which a lot of my favorite places that I've recorded in are small, and that's fine. But it's like, it just gave a vast space to spread out, and also to take space to write ahead of them. Because I'm just before it's done, like I'll put the tags on the morning of the yard sale, just out of principle.
I do love the fact that, you've already invoked the fact that Jess brought his bandmates from Queens of the Stone Age along for the party, but you also have your pedal steel player there, and just that, that seeming dichotomy of marrying all that stuff. On top of that, you were also joined on the track by Matt Helders of the Arctic Monkeys.
Mm-hmm. And also Carla Azar played drums, and they were both there every day. There was a little bit of he was picking which one based on when, and then they were both available. And that speaks to that like intimate quality I told you we had, where they just both showed up anyways. And they played double drums on Black Widow, which I don't know if anyone has noticed, but that was amazing to work with people that I'm a fan of in that way. And now it's always surreal when you're a fan of someone and then they become your peer. And you see their name calling or something, and that was the experience for that record. And now again, opens up, I don't know how my music sits along the Arctic Monkeys or if I'll get to tour with them, but it starts to pose those collaborations of like, well, maybe we could lean into this area, you know what I mean? Maybe we have to push a little further, but that's reachable now. And that's cool, just in terms of the fact that I want to be a rock singer sometimes, you know what I mean? But then as soon as that song's over, I'll be crooning on the next one, I guess.
Well, that lead single that we have so fallen in love with, First High. I mean, you're a rock singer on that, right?
100%. And it's starting to change the tone of the show. And whereas I've always kind of put on shows and kind of lamented people that I thought were like too show focused and not song focused or something, I haven't focused on a show ever. You know what I mean? I've just gone up there and been like, well, last night my dad threw a chicken wing at my boyfriend. You know what I mean? And it's really funny. And then sometimes it's not, but it's definitely like, again, just whatever. And so now with this rock stuff, I've been thinking about a show so that I can like take you in and out of these headspaces. And I'm like, that means I get to play these electric guitar. You know what I mean? It's just as fun to think about how to put them all together, you know, and even just from that pedal steel player who now is playing nylon, electric, you know what I mean? It's like, give Matt Penn a break while I transition from country into rock to at least change instruments, you know, and not have it be while I'm telling a bad joke that might go wrong. But that's been fun because, you know, I like my live show anyways, but it's been fun to find new ways to experience those first highs of that song, you know, in this job, like changing the environment to match the songs that are being created.
Our guest today on the bridge, Nikki Lane. The fourth studio album, Denim and Diamonds, is out September 23rd on New West. And the next day, September 24th, Nikki is playing Lincoln Calling. And, you know, we really hope to see you in Kansas City for a show. And if not, we're going to be looking in all of the thrift stores around Kansas City for you as you go digging around for whatever is going to show up next at your website, which is highclasshillbilly.com. It is a fabulous record. I don't know if I've taken the time to tell you how much I enjoy the new album, Nikki, and it's just a great piece of work. And we've so appreciated your time today.
Thank you so much. I look forward to everyone getting to hear it. I've been leaking it up a storm, you know, just because it's so close at this point. And all my friends that are collaborators that make jewelry to my music or whatever, I've just been sending it to them because I love getting to hear how good it is early. I hope that the masses feel that way. But I know as a music lover, I like to talk to you guys because I know you are. That's why you do what you do. And so it means a lot to hear it's good from you.
Denim and Diamonds out September 23rd. Nikki Lane today on the bridge. Thanks so much.
Thank you. See you again.